So, uh, so main idea to do this series was to get a better understanding of a lot of things. Means we talk about a lot of architecture diagrams, design patterns. Also, we talk about different types of databases and how they combine together to create massive architectures is something that we want to discuss and we want to learn. So it's more like a collective discussion that we want to do, but the notes can give us insights about what topics we need to discuss, in which direction we need to go through. So I wanted to start from database because there are a lot of confusions around which database to pick, why it is useful, and what are the use cases of each database. Means in general, to be very frank, till last year I was whenever I think that there is no RDBMS, then I used to tell, okay, we can use a NoSQL. But later during this journey I came to know that okay, NoSQL is not a database, it is a collection of data, different types of databases that we need to see. So that is the main and core concept for this session, and later we will then jump into different types of APIs, different type of securities, what web server to use. Primarily we will be focusing more on Java, but this can be relevant for other technologies as well. So first session about the database, what we want to cover in this session is we want to understand the specific needs of a particular project or requirement, and then come up with the correct database. So that's what we want to learn in this session, where we want to come up with the standard which database to pick, not just NoSQL like I used to tell a couple of years back. NoSQL is a very big area, and which is specific? Is it a time series? Is it a columnar database? Is it document database that you want to prefer? There are certain databases which are mix of different types of databases. So which one? So in the end of this session, we should be really clear that which database is what and what is the basic usage of that specific database. Okay, so this is more theoretical. Later we can jump more details into each one of them if we are interested in that. Else we can cover something else, whatever we decide. So to start with, let me give you some gyan, at least for this session, this slide. So uh, so uh, in most of the cases, what we are doing right now is we generally use RDBMS in our current project. Also, we are using a lot of databases like it is an RDBMS only, and we are not potentially using the full potential of that specific database. So and there is a specific reason for that, because RDBMS is the oldest database is which is running since last 40 years, and it was first introduced by Oracle. The commercial one was introduced by Oracle in 1979. So you can just imagine that 40 years of commercial database is available. So it's very difficult to change that mindset. And there are specific reasons as well, even though there are a lot of NoSQL databases, but still RDBMS is one of the only databases which is ACID compliant, which means that there will be atomicity, there will be consistency, there will be an isolation, there will be a durability. So if you say atomicity, everyone knows that it will insert a row in an atomic behavior. So if there is an ID 1, it cannot create ID 2 records with same ID, right? So atomicity will be there. There will be a consistency of records. It will reduce anomalies in the database, and it also safeguards us against the data integrity as well. Um, so nevertheless, RDBMS is still one of the best choice, even as per a report. RDBMS still still 60% of the databases are running RDBMS, and rest are different various flavors of NoSQL database. So that is one of the reasons why we still prefer RDBMS. But there are a lot of issues in our DBMS. Most of them we already know. One of the key challenge that we face is stability challenge. One of the issue that we were facing was at some point of time when our database was huge, we were not able to restore that particular database. So we were facing challenges of that sort, and after that we were facing challenges regarding the scalability. Right now if we want to scale, then we can just vertically scale it. We can just create a big box, and we can buy a big box and transition all the data there and then start processing there. But horizontally scaling and maintaining that database is really challenging. So scalability challenges are really there. It cannot be horizontally scaled, and even if we want to do it, it will lose some of the asset compliance. So there are a lot of complexities associated with that. So so that's why. And then it has another issue that if the load increases or number of data record increases, then the performance of the database degrades. So we need to look into that aspect as well. But there are certain NoSQL flavors which can be scaled horizontally infinitely. Theoretically, it is very theoretical, but still you can infinitely horizontally scale without any drop in the response time. So NoSQL database can give you agility, it can give you scale and availability. We will discuss about these in a bit. So the real life problems, including in RDBMS, is like if there are a lot of concurrent users, then there is a drop in response time. Always available, even though RDBMS is always available, but let's say MySQL, so there is can be only one reader and there can be multiple slaves. So still, if your master goes down, there will be some time till your slave can be treated as a master, and rest of the slaves point to that slave. So uh, it is always available, but it has some drawback as well. And then it cannot handle semi-structured and unstructured data. It is very the schema of database is very rigid. And agility is again linked with schema. So if you want to add even a one row and your database is like 2 TB size of table is there, then how you will basically update that whole column? It will take a lot of time. So that agility is not there in our DBMS. So for these people started introducing for different problems different flavors of NoSQL data. So so we'll go into little detail about the NoSQL database here. So just let me know if the pace is fast or slow so that we can adjust. Hello. Okay. Yeah, because most of the things we already know. So I just want to cover as much as possible so that we can jump into the actual topics. Okay. So so again, the agility. So we already know that why NoSQL is important. So NoSQL is very important because of its agility. So agility can be termed into two different ways. One is there is a constant change in the environment which we are in. Let's say you created a table for users. Now suddenly there is another column for user which says there was a business requirement that we should also add Twitter ID. At some point of time, you will add a LinkedIn ID of that particular user. So either you have to create a totally new table, or you need to add a column in the user table, and you know how difficult it is, how difficult it is to run and update uh, column command, to add a column in the whole database. So NoSQL gives you that kind of flexibility that you can add column at runtime. We'll talk about that later as well. Then flexibility of faster development. Now at there was a requirement of adding new column like Twitter ID. This requirement was given by the business team, and if you are on an RDBMS with a huge data underlying data in between, probably it will take a month to release that particular feature, because you have to alter that table. Before that, you will run it on dev staging environment, and then on production environment. You will do a lot of things. So but in NoSQL, let's say in document DB, you can the developer can just add a column in the code. It would be a one line change, and you will start writing the Twitter ID into your database. Similarly, one line code change to read that data. So only 2 lines and everything is done. So that's why there is a very fast development cycle, and there is a lot of flexibility in that. And again, this was a very simple way to talk about the complexity of RDBMS for a simple change, because nowadays database are connected to a lot of environments. For example, OPS a master production database can be connected to your mobile app, can be connected to your analytics server, can be connected to your BI machine learning systems. So you need to test each and every module before you make it live, right? So again, a single change can break one or many systems. So that's why using any NoSQL data like document database mm, or schema less databases are very the development is quite fast in that case. So we'll talk about some examples going forward, but that will be there. And let's take an example. There is one more simplicity in development. Let's say you have a user table. Okay, so now if you want to normalize a user table, how typically it will look. So you will have a user table with all the normalized data, and then you will have an address table. You might have a um, uh, contact info table, separate contact info table, because there might be multiple email address of a particular user. And then uh, there might be, for example, if you are working for if your project is about a job site, then what skills that particular user has, there will be a separate table for that. Which all colleges he has went to, there will be a separate table for that. So there is a very complex table structure. So even if you want to add one user, you will be actually adding a lot of rows in separate tables, which will reduce the speed of your not only of the development, because you have to write ORM, object relation mapping for each and every table, but also you need to insert data into multiple columns, multiple tables, multiple rows, and then once you are fetching the record, again you have to fetch the record from multiple tables. So your not only your development cycle is slower, but also your fetching time is more, because instead of one table, now you have to fetch from 5 tables and then make a join, and which can again complicate things, because everyone knows that joins are not simple. So so what you can do is you can have a JSON document, which you can just write into, let's say, MongoDB or any document database, and every you have to only extract only one row to show the full profile of a particular user. So it is that simple. So that's why they are fast. Okay. So development is simple and development is fast for NoSQL. Scalability, again, if RDBMs cannot be scaled, even a small change means a lot of CRs in big companies, then it will take months. While scaling in NoSQL databases, they are very scalable, highly scalable, and across geographies. So if you have a use case where you have to serve a particular request in multiple locations throughout the world, then probably NoSQL is a better option than RDBMS. This can be achieved through RDBMS, but replication throughout the network is not fault tolerant, and it is slow. So you have to take care of that. And then availability, again, records are saved into multiple places. That can be achieved in RDMS as well, but in case of NoSQL, because there are many replicas that you can create, the architecture supports it, the availability of a particular database is quite high. So as I mentioned earlier, the framework can ensure that availability of the database is actually across globe. and the response time across globe is almost more or less similar. So what are the modern world challenges that so we have already talked about it. So I just want to give you a very high level idea that what all things people are using NoSQL for. Okay, so one or two use cases, and then we will go through all the use cases that I have. So for example, I came across an example where Marriott is using it for storing transactional data. So at some point of time I had this thing that because NoSQL database does not support ACID, they cannot be used as storing transactional data, because as you know that transactional data is very important. Once you store it, there cannot be no duplicate, there cannot be no redundancy should be there, they should be highly available data, at least the transaction one. Okay, so but still Marriott, which is a 39 billion, which earns around 39 billion dollars in per year, stores its transactional data into one of the NoSQL servers. Okay, then Tesco, everyone knows that e-commerce sites and product catalogs are stored in NoSQL databases. So it is evident that Tesco, Flipkart, Amazon, they might be storing this data into NoSQL data. Then one of the interesting parts, so Gannett, I'm not sure you are aware of, but it is somewhat it is one of it is the leading newspaper company for US. Okay, so it has a lot of newspaper distribution that happens under that brand. So they have this content management system which has been built over NoSQL. So why content management? Because in content management there could be variety of variety of media. It could be a photographs, it could be a video, it could be a text, it could be a comment, it could be a blog. So all those things can be securely stored into a NoSQL data, and if you want to store it into a RDBMS, it will be a nightmare. So you might be storing your images in S3, you might be storing your video somewhere else, and then you might be storing the metadata into database, and then you want to fetch all this, it will take a lot of time. So so that's, and one of the very important thing which is happening right now is GE, which tossed this term as industrial internet. So what industrial internet is, it is basically an industry IoT. It's an IoT for industry. So nowadays what happens is, let's say there is a factory of Suzuki, Maruti Suzuki, and then there are a lot of robotic arms which actually work on a particular let's say car. So what all different IoT devices are doing, what exactly is failing, which IoT device can fail in near future. So all these metrics are coming, right? So it are coming, and we are keeping it at in certain databases. So all these matrices, all these data we store again into a NoSQL database, and G is a front runner of industrial IoT. So if they are doing it, then a lot of other companies will also do that. So these are the very few examples that people are using. Which all databases they are using, we'll see in some time. Okay, so any questions till now? Okay. Okay, so one important thing is that people also talk about data warehouses. So data warehouses is are not actually databases, but they are collection of databases. So that is the only difference between data warehouses and databases. And I have not gone very deep into that in for the current section. We might talk about that later. So so basically Redshift of AWS is a data warehouse and not a DB directly. Okay, so so these are the types of databases. Yeah, yes, it is part of NoSQL. Okay, so so I will share these slides. So I have also mentioned whatever I have I have talked, it's all it is there so that it is easy to revise. Okay, so we will talk about the different types of NoSQL databases. So you can glance and you can let me know which all you are not aware of. More or less, I think you might have gone through before. It's not hard coded because you can there is no uh, yes, I prepared it. So for example, let's say some people talk about key value stores and some people talk about in memory, but there is a lot of common between key value store and in memory databases. Like Redis can be used as an in memory database as well, but also the key value store is there. So but more or less these databases belong to these categories for sure. Okay, so we can start with any database, but let's start with the most complex one, which is the graph database. So I'm not going today very deep about the graph implementation or the queries that what kind of queries that we make to graph. This is a very high level idea that we are talking about today, which is if there is a problem statement, which database you will pick. Okay, so we'll talk about that. So this is a very superficial session, or we are just scratching the surface of databases today. So so graph, more or less you guys already know what graph database is. So in simple words, uh, so in RDMS table, okay, so rows or indexes that you create are given precedence. So everyone will talk about rows, indexes, but no will be talk. But there are connection, definitely there are parent child connection. There is a foreign key, but there are a lot of architects who do not give preference to it because there is a lot of latency involved with that. It impacts your writing to RDBMS because RDBMS is a very generic general database that uh, that were designed for a general purpose. Okay, so but graph has a very specific thing, that the nodes and edges, the relationship between them is highest priority. So the connection priority is more than that what data resides in it. Okay, okay, so in simple terms is all the use cases where you have to find connections somehow between various things. And generally we talk when we talk about graph database, social networking site like Facebook comes into picture, and we talk about the users, how users are interacting between various to each other. That is how one user is connected towards the another user. But the graph database is way beyond it. Okay, so I'm not sure if I can show it to you. So from next time onwards, I will also if I can draw something, I will be able to show you how it works. But in simple form, um, let me see if I can draw some. Okay, do you know the tool which was used for drawing on? I'm not sure if Okay, so this is good. Just a minute. ओके, यहाँ पे एक फटाफट में करता हूँ. Okay, where are you going? Dude. Okay, so let's say we have friends, we have posts, we have likes. Okay, so let's say in RDBMS there is a complex structure of user. We have user ID, and then we'll have name and blah blah blah, and then we will have again it is linked here. Okay, so again there will be a lot of friends. It will be connected through friend and user ID. There can be a lot of post that will be happening. What is the ID, what is the post ID, then how the user is associated with it. So let's say we will have a user ID associated with it, and then we will have a friend ID as well. Okay, how to go to next. Who actually okay, it is a post, so let's ignore the friend ID. So there was a post that was made by a particular user, then someone liked it, so there could be a friend ID, there could be a post ID, and there will be a lot of dates. So now if you want to fetch this data, you have to make a complex join statement, right? So how you can do very quickly in graph database. Okay, so let's assume you have all the nodes. Okay, so you have user 1, 2, user 3, let's say, and there is a host. Okay, so everything is stored in the same database. Let's say there is a user, and he is a friend. So these are two connected. Got friend. He likes your post, and he's your author. So now your database is very simple, if at least in the view of it. And I have seen the query, how it can be queried. It is little tricky, but it's not as complex as a join. Okay, so everything is present in your same database, graph database, because it is a schema less data. You will have all the users, you can have your post in it, you can even have images. I doubt that we will keep images within the graph database, but still. Um, and then you have all the relationship as well. So u1 is friend of u2, u1 is friend of u3, probably u3 might be a friend of u2, but in this case it's not. And then u2 is liking your p1, so there is a relationship between u2 and p1, and again p1, there is a relationship between p1 and u1, which is an author. So this is how this is linked, and with a simple object structure, this graph database is linked to each other. So this and within from a query itself, you can get all these data. So who liked, how many likes were there on this. So all the data, all the links that were connecting to this particular post, I can get this data. So give me a second, guys. So typically how a graph database looks like is something this. Okay, so let me see if yeah, Eh, we can achieve the same thing in a document DB as well, but fetching records or basically fetching the relationship between the two objects is difficult. Okay, so the graph database usage we'll discuss later, but I'm just checking if there is something that I missed. So yes, so just repeating this, that they are generally schemaless, and the advantage of over the document DB could be that if you want to find the relationship between two objects, or you want I just do not want to touch base upon a lot of use cases, because that is the crux. I don't want to touch it, but still I'm checking. So one of the common system that you might be aware of is like the LinkedIn user relationship. Okay, so in LinkedIn relationship, what you can do is you can find out if a particular person, how much degree apart a particular person is, right? Is he that in relationship to me, or it is at least at the second someone else can introduce me to him or not, or it's, if he is a third degree apart. So all these things in you cannot achieve in RDBMS for sure, because then you have to scan the whole database of user, which is like I'm not sure, 500 million records, and how they are linked. So you cannot achieve it through RDBMS, and for document DB for sure. Again, this is not optimized to get. Yes, so one of the important aspect for graph databases, that it supports most of the graph database supports the shortest path algorithm, which is very important. So any use case where you see that there might be a requirement of shortest path algorithm, then you should prefer a graph database. So that is the key aspect for choosing a graph database. Okay, so the two common it is there actually. So most of these databases support this built-in algorithm to find the shortest path. So Neo4j is the most common graph database which is available in the market. AWS Neptune is another one which is famous. If you are in AWS, probably you will prefer Neptune over Neo.js. Okay, so this was about the graph. Then we can go to the document database. So document database is nothing but so let's take a very simple use case now. In today's world, okay, so most of the mobile everything runs on mobile. Now, a lot of your users are coming from mobile, and a mobile app, how it, or even this is not only applicable for mobile app but also the PWA apps. So how the PWA app or mobile app interacts with your backend? Probably through JSON. Currently almost 70 to 80%, even there were some reports which says that 90% of the communication of mobile app to backend happens through JSON. So now the question arises is, we are getting data in JSON, then why we store data into tables, or rather rows? So now you have first you have to get an JSON, you have to validate it, then you have to convert it into an object, then you have to process it, then you have to write an ORM to transform it into yeah, let's say you can use an Hibernate, but you still need to write some code to transform it into the database query language, and then you insert that data, and again the way back. So why not you store this data into JSON format itself? It will be fast. Nowadays there is no so I um, okay, so it will not be normalized, but there is no size constraint now. So that was very earlier days when database or the hard disk was costing a lot, and then you have to normalize a lot of data because of that. But now that is not the case. So even if there is duplicate data, that is fine. So why not you store data into the JSON format itself? So so one of the famous implementation of document DB is the MongoDB itself. And when you are inserting data into JSON, what is happening is that you do not have to code for anything like ORM, or you have to write complex SQL queries. You are just dumping that data as a JSON into the database itself. Okay, and you are extracting that data into the JSON format again. So now if you want to introduce new row, let's go back again to our use case where there was a user, and we need to add a Twitter ID against that particular user. Then what we need to do? Then we just need to add another let's say column in that JSON, and just write it into database. Because there is no schema, it will automatically get written. So you do not have to do anything. There is no network administrator required to alter the table. You can directly write that data into database, and then you can fetch it. That's it. So that's why they are very popular, that you can dump any kind of document in there. I have given you an example of JSON. It could be an XML, it could be anything, but JSON is the most important object that all the people talk about. So that's why example is regarding JSON itself. But there is no strict schema. A typical user table, the example is here. So your table will have ID, name, age. You will have another table for mobile. You can have another table for department relationship, whether he belongs to a sales department or IT department or administrative department. Probably an address relationship, user achievements, but you say he has gotten pat on the back or not. So all these things you can insert as a JSON directly. You don't have to code. So uh, uh, whenever you want to introduce a new column, you just basically introduce a new column directly in the code. And main advantages is like support. It does not support any schema. There is no strict schema basically, and then it is globally scalable. It is very fast to develop, as we already discussed, and there is agility in development. So whenever you want to change anything, you can change. So which is again a risk as well, that if someone introduced a new thing, but it would be specifically to those objects which he is saving, or he or she is saving. So but still the document database is one of the fastest database available, and which you can generally replace with your traditional RDBMS directly. So the common examples of document database are like Mongo database or document DB of AWS. There is one more database named as Maria database, which is again very popular. Okay, and then we can talk about the columnar database. It is very simple database. Only difference here is it is also named as analytical database. So the only difference here is that the data is stored in the format of column. So if you want to aggregate on something, let's say one of the biggest example that we were using columnar database with for Opera Mini. We have this Cassandra database where we were storing user behavior in database. Now you want to know about a particular let's say how many users were coming from which city, how many users were coming from which country. So all these data can be aggregated very quickly using columnar database. So you can just assume that you have a row of user which has country, city, browser, date of visit, and a lot of visiting parameters that you have. Now because your database is has been designed in such a way that all the column data are stored at one place, and you do not have to worry about other things because it is immaterial. Means there could be tons of data in a specific row, but you are only worried about a particular column and you have to aggregate it. So it is very easy to do it because all that data is present at one place. You are just aggregating it, so it is very fast compared to RDBMS, traditional RDMS, and even the document database. But this, it has a very specific purpose for aggregating data. So if you have a requirement for BI aggregating data on a specific column, it is again NoSQL. It does not have any schema, but schema does not play an important role here because you're talking about columns. You are aggregating data on the columns itself. So if you are introducing a new column, then probably you might be having a new aggregation, so you have to work upon it. So so whenever you talk about aggregation, whenever you talk about adding based on some rows, getting some averages, then this columnar database is should be your solution. Then you have key stores. Key store is very simple, everyone knows about it, that you will have a key and you can retrieve data only based on your keys. Okay, so there are certain exceptions like DynamoDB. There are sort keys as well, but Redis does not support sorting. So Redis supports sorting on key, but there is no sorting key as such in Redis. So key store, where you should use it. So basically these are again schema free. This is very high read optimized queries you can make, and it has a very low latency. So basically caching any information you want to do, key value stores are the perfect place to store it. So because it is read only by the primary key, it is very read optimized. So any questions till now? I am assuming no. Then okay, so so in memory database, sometimes we confuse it with value stores, key value stores, and it is because that most of these are also basically key value stores, because when you are fetching some data, you will fetch it based on its ID only. So let's say Redis and Memcache, you pass on the key and you will get this specific record. The only key here is that you need to store all the data in your memory. So if you restart the server or you lose that server, all the records are gone. So it is only for super fast reads. So like caching you want to do, or you want to perform some very high calculation but you need to still cache a lot of things, then probably in-memory database will come into picture. Time series database is little complicated, but it is one of the fastest growing database on earth as of now. Reason being, the time series data, there are a lot of things that happens, rather let me put it in another way, there are a lot of events that happen throughout the world. So whenever you are tracking events, then probably time series database is something that you need to look into. So when what are the events? Let's say you are a data ops engineer, you want to record the CPU utilization every minute of all the boxes. So that will go into a time series database. If why it is popular, let me give you an example for that. So a lot of IoT device emits a lot of data per second. So so all these are events. Let's take an example. Nest device emits a lot of current temperature, checks a lot current temperature before actually switching the AC on and off, right? So what temperature was there at what specific time? If you want to log somewhere, then time series database is an perfect example. And there are many advantages also of that, because times irrespective of other databases, time series database are optimized to gather time series data to extract out reports based on time series, and also try to delete data when time is over. So you want a constant record of, let's say, last 1 year of all the events that happen from a particular device. Then you need to have a time series data, because it will automatically delete, compress the data as per your requirement. There are certain time series data which don't do that, but but you can check it. But in general, time series data, what they are good at is that you will not face issues of the disk got full, or but they are very specific, that their indexes are based on time. So if you want to fetch something against time, if you want to get certain reports against time, then this is the perfect thing that you can implement. Then search engine databases, very simple databases. They're not simple actually, but everyone knows about it. That they optimize search. They have inbuilt algorithms to store data in such a way that you can do full text search, you can do start text search, you can do a lot of, wherever you have a requirement for searching, then you don't have to think about it. You can directly say search engine database. Elasticsearch is a very good example. Splunk is another example. So these are the different types of database. um, okay, so the core part that we want to discuss today was regarding the case studies. Okay, so so we'll first go through all these case studies in general, what they are doing, and then we will discuss about these case studies. Okay, each one, that what exact database we need to use for which use case. Okay, so so let's say you have a use case for a gift coupon application which handles offers and payment related information. So you need a transactional info, you need a gift application. If I'm assuming here that because gift coupons are generally not very big application as an e-commerce application, uh, or let's say you are not getting events a lot in at a massive scales. We are talking about thousands, or let's say half a million transaction a year, or so even a million transactions. Then probably uh, the way to go forward is normal MySQL database or normal database, because it is not expensive. You don't have to maintain a lot of nodes. You can uh, because um, I, availability is, I think, required, but still 1-2 minute of downtime in, let's say, 4-5 years is okay. So that is something that you can achieve through RDBMS. So I think RDBMS is the one which we should prefer in this case. So any questions, any doubt on this? Hello. Hmm. Yeah, if you want to just fetch coupons, but what we are talking about here is that it also will save the payment related information. So we are talking about the whole application in general, that it will not only store coupon, but also let's say you want to store the payment had happened, this coupon has been utilized or not, how many, let's say you want to also analyze how many coupons were consumed in last 1 day or 1 month. You want to get such kind of statistics, then probably your key value pair will not work. Okay, so so yeah, key value pair is not a very good option for this. Another thing that we could have used is document DB, and again that is a very good choice here. Okay, because let's say if you want to add a different kind of coupon, which there could be certain physical coupons, there could be some online coupons, so the structure of these coupons will be quite different, right? So in that case, your document DB will help, if you want to scale in that way. The second one is e-commerce platform with the difference that it has to support regional inventories as well. So in general, today the e-commerce site are very complex in nature. Let's say Flipkart, they suggest a particular product is available in your city based on the inventory near to your city. So even if certain elements, certain things are available, let's say you are in Pune and certain things are available in Delhi, still it will say not available because it is not available near to your it's not available in the your regional inventory. So uh, so I think document DB could be a good option for this, but let me know if you differ. I'm not sure. This is talking about. So a mobile and web application that would help users to retrieve warranty and supply information and coordinate with builders to get repairs done. So again, we talked about JSON kind of environment where mobile data can directly be inserted into database as JSON. Um again, if the application is not very vast, then even we can cater it through RDBMS. But document DB or uh, document DB could be a good option to store these kind of data. Then in this use case, what we're talking about is, let's say there is a so there is a vendor who wants a martial art video tutorial portal, and then in simple terms, he needs a recommendation engine here. That let's say if someone is interested in a particular type of martial art, let's say judo, then he should be shown only that specific martial art pattern. So if whenever there is a um, uh, yeah, yeah. Okay. So for that, yeah. So the example that I took from was suggesting Google Big Data, BigQuery. While I read at multiple places, we can use document DB as well for that, because again you want a one thing that we discussed about document DB is that it can be available across regions as well. For example, you want to it's an e-commerce platform, so it will be huge, and again you want to serve it through different cities, let's say in India itself. Then you can scale your database cross data centers as well, so that is supported by document DB. And then you for an e-commerce platform, there could be a lot of different kind of objects you might have to support. For example, your inventory might have televisions which have different type of features, while a simple knife and needle might have a different type of features. So you have to basically support different kind of features in the same database. Then probably you should go with a document DB. It could be an AWS document DB, or it could be MarioDB or a MongoDB. So we are talking about this martial art video portal. So again, when we are talking about recommendation and especially the relationship between different videos, then we can prefer something like GraphDB, where we can find out relationship between different videos very quickly and easily. So this could be one of a good candidate for your GraphDB or Neo4j, let's say. for all the recommendation engines. The application allows users to search for menu items and restaurants in a country. So we are talking about searches, and we are, when we talk about menu items, let's say we talk about Zomato, which is very popular in India, and then we are talking about millions of restaurants, and not millions, then hundreds, thousands of restaurants, and then there will be at least 100 menu items in each restaurant, right? So we are talking about 1 million to 10 million menu items that you can search against. So all these kind of searches are optimized by search engine database. You can use an Elasticsearch. You can use. You can also use. What are the different options? You can also use Splunk. In that case, uh, we need a solution for storing error logs and traces of applications that are huge, as like 100,000 users. So again, generally logs are stored to find out certain issues in that specific log, right? So basically, what you are doing is you are doing a text search. So whenever you talk about search, whenever you talk about text search, then Elasticsearch should be the one which should come into mind. A generic IoT platform required support for data from wide ranges of devices, some from which could not be evangelized while developing on the platform. So again, they are talking about two things. One is it's an IoT platform. In general, if we are just talking about events in general, then a time series graph is the best option for this. But because he is not sure, so he needs to store a lot of different kind of data. So the type of data which is emitted by this IoT platform again is not, this user is not sure as of now, then probably time series graph will not be a good option, because in case of time series graph you should be very sure about the events, and they are generally numeric in nature, that okay, 5 events were triggered, or 40 degrees Celsius was the temperature, or let's say some another thing which can be aggregated upon some thing can be analyzed based on this time series graph. So you should be very sure about that, but because he is not very sure, it they are suggesting MongoDB as the solution for that. Again, it's a document DB, it is highly scalable, and it you can show any kind of data at any point of time. So probably this. Okay, so these were certain examples that I wanted to cover before we actually start the discussion about. So we need to come up as a team together that what database we should use, okay, for each of these use cases. So one the most common use case for any team is caching data. So let me know which database you will prefer. Guys, nothing, no answers. Yeah. Mostly Redis, or basically the keys in memory. Yeah, it can be a memory database as well. Then logging and analysis, again we have already discussed about this. This is Elasticsearch. Okay, so now the session store. So when user comes into the system, users log. So what is the use case here? User has logged into the system, and then he is browsing the store, and then at that time we need to store his session somewhere, and then once user logs out, we can close his session. So which kind of database we should prefer here? But there is no time, means okay, so we are not talking about the page visit or his analytics on how he is browsing. We are only, for example, let's say user came into a Flipkart store, okay, and then user is browsing. So you have every time you log into a system, you have your own profile, like user profile, what's your name, what your email ID, whatever details are there. Yeah. Yes, key value pair will be the best option. So first, just to explain it to Siddhi, what session store is. So in general, whenever users logged in, so we fetch a lot of details from different databases. One could be the user profile, what his email ID is, what his name is, what's his profile picture, blah blah blah, and then you will have his behavior. Let's say how the store should look like for him. For Flipkart it is quite different, but there could be certain sites which says okay, you can choose your theme color, like Gmail. It allows you to choose your theme color. So what are the theme colors, theme patterns, how he looks like, whether he needs a compressed email structure, what all the preferences are of a particular user. So not, you will not fetch each of them every time from database. So you will store it somewhere so that whenever the page refreshes or whenever user wants to fetch his or her data, it should be fetched from a central separate location. And in this case it will be a session store. So same thing is actually done for recommendation engine and preferences as well. So so recommendation, whenever you are browsing something, you know the pattern of the user, or let's say you know what generally this user prefer. So you want to show the catalog or what in general he or she browses. Let's say in general Siddhi comes to Amazon to buy clothes, right? So I will promote more clothes rather than the electronic item. If Anubandhan goes to the Amazon, then probably I will see more electronic item rather than clothes. So all these behavior actually are stored in key value player. And because session ID is unique, you can directly fetch this data um, through this ID, session ID. Got it? Okay. So now fraud detection. So you want to detect a pattern. How, what database you will prefer? Yeah. So we generally use Graph, and Graph is used across a lot of industry, banking and insurance industry, to detect frauds. A common example in this case is, let's say there is a set of common email IDs that are being used to commit crime, or there are certain IDs, certain credit card information that are used, generally used to buy certain things, which are or bank IDs or bank information which are generally used to commit fraud. Then such kind of patterns you can easily detect using Graph. Okay, so let's say if, it can also easily detect the relationship between multiple uh, um, uh, buying or purchasing attempts that are happening. Let's say if there are a lot of buys, a lot of purchase attempts happening through a specific IP, you can trace that using using Graph. So these are the patterns that you can identify. And whenever we talk about patterns, we are talking about relationships. We talk about the Graph database. Then real-time bidding. Anyone else? Okay, so it's correct and wrong. So so basically, when you want to store that data for analytics purpose, then probably you can use time series graph. Okay, but in this case you want to enable real time bidding, and this can only happen because in real time bidding there could be many users who are bidding at the same time. So you have to keep a lot of things in memory to process it. So generally, whenever you talk about real-time bidding, you might be using an in-memory database, and generally a key value pair that the current bidding is uh, at which label, who all users are doing it. But every computation has to be done on in memory so that it is fast. And then to analyze user trend like city, country, browsers. Yeah, so columnar database, because you can aggregate data based on city, country, browser type. Now, if you want to increase click and revenue through targeted advertisement. So basically, you have to group them so that you can have target. So how targeted advertisement works is you categorize people. So these are similar kind of people. These are similar kind of people, and then you will target these users with a specific advertisement or a lot of a bouquet of advertisement basically. So how will you achieve that? So so graph probably can work when we are talking about different nodes. So we have not grouped the users yet. We are talking about relationship between various users, not group of users. In this case, because we have to create a group again, then we are talking about columnar database, because then this is, let's say you have identified a lot of patterns of users, and then you have created a database of it. Now you want to identify user based on city, you have to identify user based on a specific trend. Let's say on a particular browser, let's say we do Opera Mini advertisements, or rather advertisements of to the user when user is on a specific mobile operator, not on Wi-Fi but on a mobile operator he is on. So all that kind of grouping can only happen through columnar data. So we should be using columnar data here. User profiles. Profiles. So but if you want to get some trend out of user profile, that is, let's say which city are they, or because you need to play a lot on user profile. You need to get a lot of information about different users so that you can showcase different features to specific users. So generally, user profile you will try to store in document db, so that at any point of time you want to add something like a new column as we discussed, let's say Twitter id or LinkedIn id or something else. You probably might use a document db like mariodb or mongodb. Then the retail industry wants to monitor how their assets are moving with precision and efficiency. Okay, so this use case, what happening is that right now, uh, this looks very simple, one day delivery, and we enjoy it a lot, right? But there's a lot of things that happen to improve the efficiency of the whole system, that where the exact thing was at precisely which time. So if you want to track that, how can you track it to improve the efficiency of the whole system? Yeah, time series. So you will probably keep, let's say there could be many things that you can store, that is how much distance a particular truck traveled, or what was the geographic location of a particular device or a truck, while it was navigating from one place to another. Or rather, you can also talk about the agents. So at a specific time agent was where, how can we improve the delivery of this particular agent, how he should have moved throughout the city so that we could have delivered more items, right? So all these equations can be solved with the time series data. Then real time big data. Okay, this is little complex. So not complex, but this is little vague, I would say. What the objective of this particular problem is that um, you have a database where you want um, so earlier what used to happen was that your transactional database was always different from your analytical database, so you always run summary tables on your transactional database and then copy it to your analytical database, and after that you will show the BI results to your business team, right? But now if you want to do it collectively on a single database, then what it should be, it should be, if you want to use a common database for all the things, then probably um, document db is a good option because it is highly scalable, as well as you can keep any kind of data there. So this is a little weird, but still. Online shopping, cart, this is interesting. Online shopping cart of e-commerce website where you will store it. So no, we are talking about NoSQL only, but which specific database? Yeah, but we can optimize it using, yeah, we can optimize it using a key value database, because uh, we have a specific shopping cart. What we can do is we can use like user id underscore shopping cart as a key and store data directly to the key value pair, so that you can extract information quickly, because shopping cart is unique, user id is unique, you always will have a unique user id. So at any point of time you want to fetch the shopping cart of a particular user, you can directly do it using user id. There could be alternate approaches as, yeah, if that is the use case, then definitely we should think something else. Then document db could be a good option. Yeah, if we want some kind of analytics from this system, then I agree that document db, we can go towards that. Then recommendation engines. Yeah, so in general, recommendation engine, whenever, so there are multiple approaches to achieve it. So graph is one of the fastest way to do it, but you can achieve a recommendation engine using people will say that you can do it using an ML algorithm and then put it into a NoSQL database like a document DB. You can do that. So there are multiple ways to achieve it. But if you only think about the database, then probably GraphDB is the only option that you will have, so that you can have a complex relationship between different objects, and then you can find out which object is related to this particular object, and you can showcase that all those objects as a recommendation to the user. The NYPD vehicle tracking. Okay, so NYPD has implemented a framework where it shows where the vehicle was, so that it can showcase to the public that the taxpayer money is not getting waste. So if you want to implement something like this, how you will do it? Yeah, it was implemented on a time series database. So text search is very simple. It should be an elastic search. Okay, gaming leaderboards, how you will do that? who do not know, the gaming leaderboards can change in milliseconds. So if you are playing a particular game, then let's say 5 or 6 people are playing, then the leaderboards keep on changing in milliseconds, and everyone across the whole ecosystem knows about it. Yeah, it's an in-memory database. So there would be certain specific things that you need to take care of, because we are talking about preciseness of millisecond. Let's say I die and at the same millisecond someone else died. So I am the leader or he is. So you have to also think about the collisions as well in memory database. So for example, Redis supports it. Redis have this feature of atomicity in memory database. So probably it could be a good option, but there could be certain database which might not support it. So those things also come into picture. Then the self-driving cars continuously collect data about how their local environment is changing around them. So again, this is an IoT, because it's not something which can, it can physically collect like photos and all. It is more from sensors, how they get this data. Okay, so if you want to build a system that want to store data coming from self-driving cars from all these sensors, what you will use? No cases. Yeah, time series, because again we are talking about events from IoT device or basically sensors, and we will save them. So to if you want to get a trend about how it is changing on day-to-day basis, then it can give you that trend. Obtain data on impressions left by advertisements. So uh, so it is basically a column. Hmm? Yeah, columnar is a good option here, because what you're tracking again is impressions left by advertisers. One second. So even I am not sure what exactly is meant by this, but uh, if it is talking about categorizing of different kind of advertisements and then see how the impressions work on certain sets of advertisements, then yes, columnar database is a correct option for this. Then again, it is an IoT device which we are talking about, so it will be a time series database. Product catalog of a big e-commerce website where you will store. Yeah, it will be a document database. Then master data management. Okay. Yeah, Raju. No, but the thing is that uh, one, we need a scale, and second is that everything that you are selling is different. So probably an electronic item, the details will be quite different than compared to an a cloth or apparel that you might want to sell. So what we are talking about is a lot of different kind of structures of data that you want to show to user. So that's why a product catalog of a very big e-commerce website, it's we cannot be saved in RDBMS. If we are talking about specific e-commerce site like Bata, if it is selling things online, then we are only talk about shoes. Let's say Max accessories around shoes, then probably RDBMS can be used, but still document DB would be a better option. So master data management for people. Okay, so this is little new concept. So let me just brief you what exactly master data management is. So so in Talentica we have very small employee strength. We have only 450 people, so it is very easy to maintain database. You can even maintain this database on an Excel, that what is, who all employees are there, what products we are selling, what products we are consuming, who all our customers are, how much we are billing them, and what are the processes that we have to follow. Because it's a single company, you have only fixed processes. The presence is only in a city, then probably there are only one set of leaves for that particular city. So all these things you can easily store. So all these information are is treated as master data management, and it is very critical for all the organization. Why it is critical? Because you should always be on top of such information. So let's say you do not want to have different processes across different geographies. Let me explain you a very complex scenario, and then we will again jump into which database we need to use. So master data management, let's say we have a company like Atlas Copco. So Atlas Copco is not a single company, it's a group of more than 100 companies. Every company has its offices across the globe. There are companies which have at least presence in 20 to 25 countries. So the rules will be different, the processes across the organization will be different, but still uh, the central company should have record of each and every processes that is happening in all the companies. And why so? Because they want to ensure that okay, so for every company it is very important that whatever um, mission and vision they are seeing, whatever goals they have, it should be spread across throughout the organization in the similar fashion. It should not be like that one company is running in a different way and another company is running in a totally different way. Whatever the mission and vision is there for of the stakeholders, it should be percolated throughout all the companies. Okay, and which makes things very complex. So now if you can just imagine, there could be I'm not sure if there are million employees for Atlas Copco, but there will be in thousands. Okay, so there are at least 100,000 employees in India. Okay, so and then what all products are there? Are they meeting the guidelines of Atlas Copco? So Atlas Copco is blue in color, not blue but teal color. So most of their products will have packaging in the same color. So so that represents their brand. So all these information is collectively stored in master data management. And this is not only about uh, the theoretical things like color management processes, but it is also about names, employees, it is also about their customers, what product they have bought, who are their major stakeholders, who are their major customers, so that they can ensure that they can serve them better. So all this data is stored in master data management. So which database you probably want to use for master data management? I think what I lost you guys. For sure not. Yeah, so there are two things, two databases that we can choose from. One is DocumentDB, because the data itself is very complex in nature. But there is another thing also. So all these things are very linked with each other. For example, let's say you have an employee list, you have a list of processes, but which all employees will fall under that particular process is a linkage between the two. So so these processes Yeah, so these processes are actually belong to a particular company in a particular location. This employee resides in that location, and hence these processes apply to him. So if there is a complexity like this, this especially happens in companies like Atlas Copco, GE. So all these companies might want to implement it in a graphs based system, because then they can easily understand and get information about which things are applicable to what. Let's say if a particular customer is buying certain products of company X, then probably he might be interested in another products of company Y. So that kind of recommendation engine also I can get it on this master data kind of thing. So I think so. So I'm not very sure about it, but I read it somewhere. Ki grouping can be done. Because then the data will be stored in a different way, rather than it would be a, basically relationship. So if you want to group by, there should be certain kind of relationship attached to it, and if relationship is there, then you can actually group by. Then content management system, so we already talked about it. The document DB is a preferred choice for content management system. Then autonomous trading algorithm continuously collect data on how the markets are changing. So if you want to do something like this, yeah, time series. IT asset management. Okay, so it is a little complex again. So let me brief you quickly. So IT asset management is not the simple IT asset management that we do in Talentica. It is way complex than that. Let's say we talked about the GE industrial IoT, right? So now there are millions of IoT devices across the globe which are emitting data per second, and now you want to store this data somewhere, so that, and then you can find out the relationship between the data. So a simple example of relationship is, let's say certain device is slow because of certain devices, okay, for a particular geography, a particular set of IoT devices are not working properly. So what could be the reason? It could be that the connectivity of this IoT device with the main backbone or internet backbone is not correct. Probably the issue is with the router through which it is attached, and these routers also are attached in a meshed manner. So they are not directly connected uh, with the internet backbone, but they are interconnected, and then the request is routed through the mesh network. So which router exactly is the pain point? If you want to identify, then you have to store this data into a graph based model. Okay, so if you want to analyze very complex networking thing, then probably graph would be a better choice for analyzing those kind of issues. Okay, there was something interesting. Where it is? Play session in a gaming app. So we are talking again about the session here. So this is nothing but through session ID we can fetch, which is key value pair. Uh, so this is again through graph we can achieve LinkedIn Salesforce application. So this is a little complex way of saying. So currently there are many companies which create Salesforce plugin to improve sales, but for that you have to find out the correct prospect through the system itself. And this system, how it does it, it fetches a list of LinkedIn profiles and try to match it within the criteria that you have provided. Let's say you want to sell a generator. So let I need to find out an admin guy of various companies who are placed in my own city, and then so all these relationship you can only identify through graph database easily. Means you can achieve it through other algorithms as well, but graph would be a better option. DevOps monitoring data is again a time series database. There is one more example. I think I missed it, which was an interesting one. So there are a lot of researches that are happening on gene, gene as in genomatics we say, right? Lot of biology companies. Wait a second. Genome mapping we do, right? I missed it. So if you want to do a genome mapping and you want to analyze various genomes, and there is a specific use cases that if you have a specific gene in your DNA, then probably you might have this disease, you might face diabetes, you might face something like this. So if you want to do that kind of research, then how you will do that? So again it is very complex and interconnected structure. So again it is done by graph database. And there are a couple of IEEE, because when the graph database was introduced, it was pitched for genome. There are a couple of IEEE papers that I was walking through. They were proposing some kind of graph database in that white paper that can be used for genome by the genome companies like bioinformatics companies. They can do that. So yeah, that's it from my side for today. 1 second, let me stop.